Coach Bergstrom, still call you Coach. Let's just kind of take a little run down the old memory lane here. Tell me about when your coaching career started, where it started, all of the stuff you did throughout the years.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm very thankful that KMA and Mr. Martin showed up today. I was completely surprised. Where we're living clear over in Lincoln, Nebraska. When I got home yesterday, my wife said, we got an email from KMA, and they want to come over and visit you. And I go, wow. So I want to say thank you to KMA. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. Where do I start my career at? First of all, I graduated 55 years ago this May, a little place called Wilcox, Nebraska. There was 15 of us, 8 girls and 7 boys. And after we graduated in 1961, I went to McCook Junior College. And unfortunately, I was immature. I didn't know what I was doing. And instead of going to class, I went to the pool room and played pool, even though I wasn't very good. So after 1 year at McCook Junior College, 61-62, I left, went back home to Holdreach, where my mom and my sister lived. And I worked for Sunglow Dairy for a year. And I loaded trucks, I loaded huge semis and went to North Platte, McCook, and Cozad, and Lexington every day. I was loading milk and ice cream and etc. So I did that for 1 year, and then back I went to McCook Junior College. I'm now 20 years old. You'd think I would know what I was doing, but I didn't. And I didn't go to class much again. And then at the end of that third year, that first semester, in this case 63, 64, I decided I was just spinning my wheel. That's all I was doing, going nowhere. So I got in the car and I went to Hastings, Nebraska, and I went to the naval recruiter. And I said, can you help me? And he says, as a matter of fact, I can. He said, if you enlist in the Navy for 4 years, you'll get to see the world. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't get to see the world, but I got to see the Pacific Ocean. And my 4 years in the Navy, I absolutely loved. My highlights from 64 to 68 were in first of all, I went to boot camp with 95 Nebraskans on February 25th, 1964. Same day as Ali and Liston in their heavyweight fight. Same day. 95 of us went to San Diego. We were told it would be a 9-week boot camp. It turned out to be exactly 13 weeks and 91 days. It was 4 extra weeks. I can't remember anymore why, but it was quite a long time. After I got done with boot camp, I come back to Holdreach, Wilcox, and my buddy was home from the Navy. He was home on furlough like I was. I was home on a 2-week furlough. And he says to me, he says, Gary, I've got a girlfriend 70 miles down the road at a little place called Wilsonville, Nebraska. And she's got a girlfriend that could use a date. Would you like to go with? Truthfully, Derek, I didn't want to go, but I did. So we get in this car and we go 70 miles and we have this blind date, didn't know each other from all. We go to McCook, Nebraska to the drive-in, watch a movie, get back home, and I get out, and when I come back, taking her to the house, I said, I told that Bud in Virginia, I said, I don't know if I'll ever see her again. Well, it turned out I did, not many times, but we eventually got married Christmas of 1966. My wife told me, said, don't say this with Derek, but we had about 10 dates is all we had, and I'll be darned if the marriage didn't work. We got married Christmas 1966, so we're now in our 50th year this December. People say, how'd you do it that long? Well, you got to compromise, and hopefully my wife and I did that. So I'm done with that, the Navy. I want to mention a little bit more about my Navy. I'm not done with that. 3 things I want to mention briefly. So I come on board the USS McMorris DE-1036, stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. I came on board May 16th, 1965. I came on board 0800, and at 1600 that day, that very same day, we headed to Vietnam. Vietnam was about 8 months into being what you and I would call, well, I'd call it a war. I don't know. History don't really call it that. But so I spent the summer of 1965 off and in the coast of Vietnam. That's about all I want to say about it. I don't want to go into details, but it woke up my eyes. I was pretty green, and it certainly woke up my eyes. Two other things I want to mention about the Navy is in November of 65, on our way back to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, for a new assignment, we went across the equator. I don't know how to describe that. We had a program that was unbelievable. I'll just put it this way. No women were on board ships in those days. And what we went through, you probably wouldn't believe it. But it was a great experience. It was shellbacks versus the pollywogs. And I can now say I am a shellback forever. So that I'd like to go across the equator again, but I probably won't. But it was a great experience. And the last thing I want to mention, just briefly, we got married. Kath and I got married Christmas of 66. It'll be 50 short, 10 months from now. 5 weeks later, on January 31st, 1967, I'm back in Pearl Harbor, and I'm on the ship, the McMorris, and we're about, the way I remember it, may not be right, about 80 miles south of Pearl Harbor, what you call Honolulu, and we had a terrific ship collision at sea. I don't know how to describe that, but it left two of my shipmates dead. I had left Gary right beside me. Both of his legs were amputated. And the ship went through our ship store. It went through our bathroom. It went through our shower stall. And it went all the way to where I was sleeping, me and Harvey. It went all the way into the bedroom, the operations bedroom, and it stopped halfway through the ship. A little bit longer, both sides of the ship would have went under in the Pacific Ocean. It left an impression. I used to think about it constantly. It missed me, the whole of the ship. The other ship that came into our bedroom missed me by 18 inches, and I was trapped for several minutes, and it was a scary situation, but I made it through. Okay, where are we at, Derek? I'm done with the Navy.
Yeah. So how did the whole teaching and coaching thing come about?
Teaching and coaching, my wife and I are both Kearney State College. We will always call it that. It will never be the University of Nebraska at Kearney. But we both went to Kearney and graduated. She graduated in 70, and I graduated in 72. So if I got out of high school in 61 and I entered the classroom at Blue Hill, Nebraska in 72, that means I'm 29 years old. I'm not 22 years old, and that's because of 4 years in the Navy, and it took me 7 years to get my college degree. I will say this, when I got out of the Navy and I went back to McCook Junior College for the third time, I had my head on straight, and I got after things, and things were a lot better then. But Kath and I both went to Kearney State, and we were living in Loomis, Nebraska. And she was the art teacher, K through 12. My wife's a great teacher, and she was teaching K through 12, and I'm graduating now in 72. She's finishing up her second year. And lo and behold, the football job, the head football at Loomis opened up, Loomis, Nebraska. And here I am. I'm doing all the football scouting for 2 years at Loomis. I'm picking up everybody's trash every Saturday morning with a John Deere tractor and trailer. Everybody knows me. Everybody. And I applied for the job, and to make a long story short, they narrow it to two people. And I'm one of the two. And the second interview I had, we're down to the final two. The superintendent says, I leave the interview room at about 9:30, and he says, I'll call you in about an hour. We all knew it was my job, Derek. Everybody knew it was my job. In fact, the home that we were renting with the school board member, Roland Hansen. Okay, my wife said, okay. But We didn't get the call at 10:30. We didn't get it at 11:30. We didn't get it at 12:30. At 1:30, the phone rang. And Mr. Richardson said, Gary, we've hired the other guy. You talk about hurt. But you know what I did with that, Derek? I took that thing and I taught kids that a million times in my classroom, that you don't always get what you want in life. So instead of staying at Loomis, Nebraska, we will eventually go all the way to Iowa. So after we didn't get the job, my mentor, who was a legend in this state, Leroy Hayner, if you're from Nebraska, you know him. He's from Bertrand, Nebraska. He was my mentor. He basically got me a job at Blue Hill, Nebraska. So I spent 1 year at Blue Hill, Nebraska. Then I spent 2 years coaching and teaching at Stanton, Nebraska. Then we moved to Iowa. And the reason we moved to Iowa, my wife was pregnant, and if we went across that Platte River, we got an extra $1,000. So we ended up going to one of my greatest places ever, Bridgewater, Fontenelle, Iowa, that you called, Eric, Nottoway Valley. And I spent 3 of the greatest years of my life there. And I was the head football coach, assistant boys basketball coach, and head boys track coach. When I got to BF, they were on a 26-game losing streak. When we have our football meeting in August of 75, 3 seniors show up, 14 kids in the library, and I go, oh, why am I doing this? But 3 seniors show up, and they had won 1 game. They were 1-8, 0-9, 0-9, 26 in a row. The longest in Iowa. And in my 3 years, we ended up going 500. I still hear from those kids on a regular basis. I loved it. I loved the place. But my wife wasn't teaching. We had 2 children by now. We were starving to death, kinda. And we applied for a job at Griswold. Why I never applied for the head football, I'll never know. I didn't think I deserved it. I didn't think I'd paid my dues, even though I was 32 years old. So I applied for assistant football, all the high school social studies, and head boys track. And that's how I ended up at Griswold. I did get the job. The head coach that came the same year I did, Tom Rubel, after 3 years, will leave. The administration comes to me after 3 years and says, would you like that head football job, Gary? I said, do I want that job? I wanted it so bad I could taste it. They said, it's your job. So I got the job I wanted, head football at Griswold. 6 weeks later, I had a quadruple bypass. And my doctor in Omaha said, Gary, you can't take the head football. So I had to give it up. I give it up to a guy Derek and KMA knows well. His name is Mr. Tom Moore, who's now a state representative in Des Moines and doing a good job. He'll do a great job. I give it up to him with the condition that after 1 year, I would become the head football at Griswold. Tom and I have talked about it once in a while over the years. And after that first year with Tom, we finished 6-3. And I couldn't make myself tell Tom he couldn't have it anymore. So the head football job at Griswold will never be mine, ever. But I enjoyed working with Tom. He was a great, great football coach. Man, that first 3 years under Tom, we were 6-3, 8-1, and 10-1. So things went well. So I don't know where we're at, Derek, but now I'm at Griswold, and I will be there for 37 years. So I spent 40 years in Iowa, moved to Lincoln here in August of 2015. But I miss Iowa. I miss Griswold. I will always miss it. I love the place. I love Bridgewater Fontenelle. But I became an assistant football coach most of those years, and I was head boys track coach in 2 states for 38 years, and I loved every bit of it.
Well, we got to talk about some of the successes, and the big one is the 2005 state championship. You were runner-up in 2006. We'll get to other years as well because I know you had a lot of success, but that you can talk about those 2 years a little bit and how it kind of came about where you were state champs.
I think we had a good boys track program at Griswold. Do I think we were the best? No. No, I really think there were probably two better than us. And if you follow track, it would be Woodbine and Trainer. Trainer just always nipped us for conference championships. They had tremendous athletes, and of course, Woodbine had the legendary coach that we all remember and we love forever. Just a great guy. Both programs were great. But Griswold did have tremendous athletes. I heard Dave Duran yesterday say, I can't mention them. I can't mention any of the athletes, and I can't either, because we had so many. Derek, we had so many good kids. But I will say this, the last 15 years at Griswold, we had some tremendous success in boys track. In 2004, a person you know well, Derek, Jane Hall Challey, shows up, and I can remember the administration coming to me and saying, Gary, can you work with a female assistant coach? I don't like to use the word assistant. I go, of course I can. And our friendship for 6 years was incredible. I miss her. We were very close. We spent so much time together, and her kitchen or my kitchen working on track. We spent a lot of time on track, and she did all my technology work, and she was tremendous. So was her mom and dad, just great people. But we just really had some great years. That 2005 that we won, I got to be honest with you, we did not win the conference championship. Trainer beat us. Were we a favorite going into the state? I don't know. I got to say one thing about that meet, that if you're around it at Griswold, you never forget it. In the 4x2 relay, by the way, Iowa's track is just tremendous. The girls have 7 relays, the boys have 6. Over here they have 3. In my opinion, Iowa's just way ahead. But in that 4x2 relay, we were not the fastest 8, meaning we were not in the final heat. There was no prelims. You had a third heat, a second heat, and a first heat. We're sitting there in the second heat. Holy cow, we ran a 1:30 in the 4x2 relay. In the middle heat, we won by I don't know how many yards, and it held up and nipped Trainer in the fast heat, and that sprung us to the state championship. You never forget, Kath, you never forget that 4x1 relay in the finals with Griswold and Trainer. You will never forget it, because it's Lucas Mosier taking on Mr. Frayne, not Tanner, the middle one, what's his name? Frayne versus Mosier. Oh, I don't know how to describe it, and we nipped him. And we had a kid win a 400-meter dash. We had a kid in the high jump, and we actually won that thing. And it was the greatest feeling in the world, because so many coaches in all sports do not get to win a state championship. I feel very fortunate to win it, but we had tremendous kids, and I had Jane's help, and we got it done. And the next year we got second. We were right in there at the end. We got beat by 6 points, I think, for the state championship. But, yeah, and then, all the way until I quit in 2010, we just had great track teams.
You mentioned 2010, and you also said a race you'll never forget. Here's one that I'll never forget. 2010, last race of your coaching career, the 4x4, and they win the state championship. What do you remember from that one?
Well, I was very close, still am, I hope, with Kevin White, the Omaha World Hero, for many reasons. And he come down and interviewed me, and wow. In that last state track meet, 2010, we got second in the distance medley, and we ran an unbelievable for 1A school, although we didn't win it. We ran 3:35 and were DQ'd. And I felt so bad for the kids. So Jane and I talked to him and said, we're going to pull this off. We're going to win this thing with our 2 seniors, our 2 sophomores. And we ran 3:25 and won it. We beat Mel Montclemmy at the tape. Meeker said, I'm going to win it for you, Coach, and he did.
Talking about Jamie Meek, great runner there for you. Yeah.
Absolutely, Meeker.
I know you didn't just, you're a coach and a teacher, and I always saw you at basketball games. You were the official scorer. I know this year I went in there and I was like, where's Coach Bergstrom? Can you talk about all the other things you did along with coaching and teaching?
We have a legendary coach, in my opinion, at Griswold. His name is Raymond Butt. I love him. He was our softball coach, and he asked me to help him one year in 1985. My problem was I was working on my master's degree at Northwest Missouri, but I did help him, and lo and behold, we went to the state tournament, Griswold's only time. So that's one of my highlights, working with Mr. Butt. He's a legendary. I have coached so many sports at Griswold. Right at the end of my career, I coached some volleyball, and I loved it. I've coached junior high basketball in Iowa, Griswold and Bridgewater Fontenelle. And I've coached a little bit of cross country. And I've coached baseball, man. I was an assistant baseball coach for 8 years. I spent 8 years coaching 12 months a year, football, basketball, track, and baseball. But I don't think there's ever been a sport I didn't like. The only thing I haven't coached is wrestling, which was strong at Griswold at one time, very strong. And I've never coached golf, wrestling, golf, and girls track.
Girls basketball.
And girls basketball, yeah. The rest I've kind of coached with. I love coaching. I loved it. Do I know anything about coaching? I don't know. Sometimes I don't think I know anything about coaching. But what I really loved, I let the Janes and the others, the Toms, do the X's and O's. But my job was motivation, and gosh, I loved that. I loved getting on that bus, and before we go out on the track meet, I'd talk to those kids, and they knew I was serious. And I'd say, they heard me say this a million times, Derek. I'd say, you know what we got to do today, guys? Here's what we got to do today. We got to do 3 things. 3 things. Number 1, we got to compete. Number 2, we got to compete. And the third and most important thing we got to do today is compete. And compete, the Griswold kids did.
Awesome. Now, coaching, teaching, you're not doing it anymore, obviously. So how do you spend your time? I know yesterday, as you had mentioned, I was conversating with your wife and trying to get this lined up. You're at the state girls basketball tournament here in Lincoln, so you go to a lot of sporting activities.
I do. I of course, because I'm from Nebraska, even though I spent 40 years in Iowa and I loved it, but I'm from Nebraska, and I'm just buried in Big Red. Every sport. Speaking of the girls' state tournament, just to show you the difference, I read in the paper yesterday, this is Nebraska's 40th state tournament. Iowa, who's also this week, and my wife and I went every year, and we're not going this year, and I missed that already, but Iowa's 97, meaning Iowa State Tournament is 57 years older. But to answer your question, I went down and asked if I could apply for a tour job at the state capitol, one of my loves. It's one of my loves, the state capitals. And they said, no, we don't have volunteers. We just hire people on a full-time basis. So I said, is there anything else I can do down here? And they said, yeah. You can run the information desk if you want. So I kind of think I'm going to be doing that at the state capitol in Lincoln. Another thing is my wife and I are buried in traveling to state capitals. We're buried in art museums. We're buried in football stadiums. I have been to so many of them, just all over this country, just to take a look at them. And we're also buried in my beloved Civil War battlefield. I've been to Gettysburg 4 times, Shiloh 2 times. I have been to every major Civil War battlefield with the exception of Pea Ridge in northwest Arkansas. Other than that, I have been to all of them. And my love is the Civil War and art museums and state capitals. We've been to 28. We started too late. I don't think we'll ever make it to 50, although we're going to try to hit some more this summer. And I do a lot of reading. I get probably 15 magazines a month and numerous newspapers. I'm a reader. I love to read.
And KMAland.com, right?
Say it again.
And KMAland.com, too. You read a lot.
I do. Oh, I do. I don't even know what a blog is, Derek. But I read yours every day. Derek, she laughs, but I don't even know what a blog is. But I read yours every day. Including this morning. Before you came, I read the Derek Martin blog.
I appreciate that.
By the way, what time do you get up and do that?
Let's not talk about that.
Okay.
Not here anyway. Maybe after. But I got just one more question for you, and that would be folks that that you taught, and you coached, that are wondering how you doing.
I've got health issues, but I've had 4 open heart surgeries, including 2 quadruple bypasses. In the last month, I've had 2 upper GIs, and I got another one coming next week. Plus, I got to have eyelid surgery, and I've had ruptured appendix. But, as Tom has reminded me many times, I've said so many times to Tom, I hope I can make it to see both my kids graduate from high school, and the last one graduated 20 years ago. So I really don't have anything to complain about. I really don't. But, yeah. Heart disease is heart disease.
Coach Bergstrom, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me in your home.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming all the way over from Shenandoah, Ohio. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Derek.